Sometimes thinking about the right question to ask at the right moment to get the people in the room reoriented and reset.
I appreciate how that taps more of our cognitive flexibility. When we just say to ourselves, oh, don't stress, or just relax, that actually is not going to translate.
If I'm agitated, now we're all agitated. And if that's not what's called for now, I've overdone it.
I'm Dr. Amy Athey. As a licensed psychologist and performance expert, working with elite athletes, C-suite executives, and high performers operating in some of the most demanding environments, I've seen what it truly takes to perform when it matters most. From supporting members of the Naval Special Warfare community to advising leaders in high-stakes, high-pressure situations, one truth remains consistent. The tools that drive performance are the same. You prepare in a way that allows you to show up ready when the moment arrives. Each week, I'll share practical tools and insights to help you strengthen how you think, lead, and perform. Welcome to Still Evolving.
Every leader I work with right now is navigating some version of the same environment, which is a workday where the volume has been turned all the way up. Headlines, notifications, group threads, market moves, opinions, meetings, and the constant hum of a world moving faster than any calendar can absorb. Inside that volume, two questions quietly decide whether a leader performs well or gets pulled under. What is signal and what is noise? And how do I read the energy of the people around me clearly enough to know which one they are picking up on? The first question, signal versus noise, is one of the oldest performance questions in high-stakes work, and it has only gotten harder. Signal is that information that actually matters for a decision in front of you. Noise is everything else, internal and external, and there's more of it now than at any other point in modern working life. The leaders who execute and thrive inside this environment are not the ones who consume the most information. They are the ones who have gotten disciplined around what they choose to give their full attention to and are equally disciplined about what they choose to release, only to refocus on what is important now. It requires a leader to sit with the discomfort of not knowing everything and to make a deliberate call about what matters most and to trust that call for long enough to actually execute against it. When leaders do not do this well, they end up busy without being productive, reactive without being effective, and drained without actually accomplishing the thing that they set out to do. In my book, Moment Ready, which is now out and available on Amazon, I write about clarity as one of the 4 capacities that allow high performers to show up in moments that matter, alongside with composure, connection, and courageous action. Clarity, as I define it, is not the absence of complexity. It is the discipline of seeing the moment for what it is and knowing what it is asking of you. And that precise muscle that allows you to separate the signal from the noise, allows you to step into that moment as your best self in meeting the demands before you. When clarity is weak, the same leader walks out of a room with a longer to-do list often, or a foggier picture of what to do first. The good news is that clarity is a skill, not a personality trait. It gets built through practice, through protected time to think, and through the discipline of asking again and again, what's important now? The second question, reading the energy in the room, is where a lot of leaders quietly get lost because it does not show up in any of the traditional performance metrics. A team's energy is data, though. It tells you whether the group is aligned or divided, engaged or drained, expanding or even contracting and avoiding. The leaders I have learned most from treat that data with the same seriousness as any other input into the decision. They watch how their people are moving together. They notice when the room tightens up or opens up, and they pay attention to whether their own presence is helping the team find its footing or accidentally knocking it off balance. Because here is the piece worth naming. A leader's own energy is also contagious. When a leader is calm, focused, and grounded, the team catches on. And when that same leader may be agitated, scattered, or urgent, when the situation does not require it, the team catches that too. Composure at the top ripples all the way down in either direction, whether the leader intended to or not. What ties these two questions together is that they both often live in the same daily practice, which is the practice of paying attention on purpose, refocusing. Signal versus noise is what you attend to in the information around you. Reading the room is about what you attend to in the people around you. Leaders who develop both build a very particular kind of executive presence, one that may be characterized by being calm, steady, and unusually effective. They are not the loudest voice in the room. They are the one who has already figured out what matters and can help everyone else find their way without adding to the chaos. That is the territory today's guest works in every day. And the way he has learned to hold both threads together over a career spent inside some of the most complex client environments in the country is exactly the conversation worth having right now. My guest today is Sam Espinosa. Sam is a partner and national practice leader at Mercer, where he leads the firm's government human services consulting practice, a team of more than 400 consultants who help government clients understand their vision, develop strategic approaches, and organize their resources they need to succeed. He has been a consultant for more than 25 years, and his work has spanned some of the most consequential problems in public service, including Medicaid managed healthcare, long-term care planning, hospital rate setting, payment reform, health exchanges, and person-centered planning. He has worked with more than 21 states and has led engagements ranging from small teams to 75 participating consultants, with program-related fees under advisement ranging from $500 million to more than $10 billion annually. What makes him exactly the right voice for a conversation anchored in signal, noise, and team energy is that he has spent his career inside rooms where the stakes are high, the pressures are political, and the decisions affect some of the most vulnerable populations in the country. He has learned, often the hard way, how to define what matters, how to help a room to get where it needs to go without becoming another combatant inside it, and how to sustain himself over the long arc so he can keep doing the work well. Sam, welcome to Still Evolving. Grateful for you and the opportunity to have this conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Amy. I'm really glad to be here and looking forward to the conversation myself.
Awesome. Your journey has certainly been remarkable, and I want to take a moment to kind of pick your brain, if you will. One of the key risks that many people talk about in today's climate is like a geopolitical risk, right? And there's a lot of noise out there, doom scrolling to, traditional media articles, and certainly then in the rooms we step into. So I can only imagine in your professional service world, oftentimes a lot of noise that can be out there. In the spirit of the World Cup, I have to give a nod. I think I even made a social media post around it, right? Like our elite athletes, we have examples of where people are performing, teams are coming together to execute tremendous visibility under significant pressures to perform, and certainly with noise, whether it's stadiums, social media world, media, etc. So in this theme of how do we lead through what can be very noisy, chaotic conditions, where should we start? Like, what has helped you perhaps, or what are some of the lessons learned in your journey?
Oh, I think it's great. I really appreciate you open with the World Cup. We've been watching here earnestly at my house. So one of the things that popped in my head as I was thinking about your question right now, as you're entering it, is the penalty kicks. So many of the games have been decided with PKs at the end. And the kicker has to zoom in on a box this big. That is the signal. And the rest is the noise. And you can see that even at their level, elite athletes that have trained much of their lives for that moment still have been challenged to focus on just the box. And the ball goes over, hits the pole, wrong direction.
Right.
And so I think for leaders, or for myself, it's been defining the box well. And I have a very, a moment for me, I had a previous boss and he said to me, Sam, you're struggling. He says, I want you to go to Starbucks and I want you to spend 8 hours, no meetings, the whole day, and tell me the 4 things that are most important for you to do. And I left that day. I had no calls, no meetings, but I was rock solid on what was my signal. And then I could tune out the rest as noise. So that was a moment that I struck well. And I think for many of us, it's really defining the box correctly that we have to hit and what gets us there. And honestly, I still do that day, every year or so, and just kind of take a day away and define what are the 4 things I really need to do, which lets me tune in and lets me tune out and identify when I am tuning out.
Absolutely. What I hear you describing is clarity, right? Like, what is that box? And if it's filled like the old TVs, like that, perhaps you and I grew up with, where we were like, I would jiggle the little box to try to get the picture a little clearer. But compared to the high def options that we have now, right? I talk about that book in my book, Moment Ready, as one of the 4 capabilities that enables us to show up in our moments that matter. The role of clarity, and as I heard you say, really differentiates signal from noise. I was incredibly humbled to serve on the human performance team in a Navy SEAL command. And I remember learning from one of the operators there. I was overwhelmed to first understand and experience like the amount of radio traffic operators in combat and certainly other missions would experience. And it's from all over, right? Like there's many people talking, and, he was like, you just get accustomed to listening for your call sign, right? But in the midst of all of that, it's very easy to miss it, to mishear, when the adrenaline starts pumping, to jump in on another conversation, right? So I know for you, you've talked about like teams also carry a noise, like a buzz. So both perhaps an information sharing, but also like an energy. Can you talk a little bit about, as a leader, like when you first started paying attention to that vibe, that buzz of the team, and also how you differentiate and how it can be important signal for you in helping execute whatever deliverable you're taking.
That's really, it's interesting. And that's something I think later in my career that sort of came through for me as an insight is like, I need to be listening to what, my team is doing and the buzz they're emitting. If it's, think of like the bees in the hive, and I think the queen bee must know what the bees are doing and when they're off kilter, what adjustments are needed and signals for it. And so you can, as a leader, I think, I imagine the rowers on a boat in the coxswain making the calls. You've got to be listening for what they're doing and watching what they're doing. If they're on track, they're going to get it done. They're going to do what they need to do. And when they're off, you need to know what little adjustments to make on the team to get them humming again. And so I've become a lot more attuned to where my teams are at, how they're doing together. Are they all rowing in the same direction? Do they even know what direction they're rowing in? And then just making slight adjustments. I think that as a leader, that's more important than, once you've pointed the way, your team's going to get you there. As long as you're getting them all in sync and working harmoniously, we're going to get there. And so that's been a real focus of mine, is making sure my team is working harmoniously and listening for that buzz that they're emitting. And if it's accretive to what we're trying to do or distracting from what we're trying to do.
Do examples come to mind, Sam, of over the years when there is that emotional undercurrent and perhaps you can't exactly name it? You more likely can feel it, you experience it in the interactions, or perhaps in what you're observing in the communications. Like when you talk about fine tuning it, I guess what I'm sitting here kind of pondering is oftentimes that emotional energy, something that you can't perhaps exactly name, it may feel messy, but certainly it may feel tense. And there may be perhaps time pressures, there may be deliverable or client pressures coming from different sides, right? So fine tuning may feel risky as a leader, right? Like, because the whole, it's like, if I just shake it too much, right? Like that's going to pop, it's going to explode. So
yeah.
I'm just curious, when you describe fine tuning, is there an example that comes to mind around, and it could go either way, a fine tuning that seemed to be effective and it helped you out? Either you observed or you tried yourself, or either even the flip side of where you've seen a leader or maybe yourself misstep and somewhat ignite that energy in a
I
negative.
can think of a few situations. So as a consultant, as an individual consultant working with my clients, one of my areas of work was whole system transformations, where states were working with special needs clients and they had to implement a new system of care for very vulnerable, highly political, extremely complex clients. And where I can tell you I felt like I missed is when I became one of the actors in the room and I had a side, and it wasn't my job to shape the outcome and help the team come to the resolution, but I took a side, or I had my own point of view that I was trying to infuse in the client's world. And so I think when the leader gets engaged in the wrong manner, and now they're just one of the combatants, if you will, in the room trying to sort out what has to happen, we're in the wrong spot. We want to be more shaping the room and let the room get to where they need to get to, and with direction and guidance.
Sure.
But you don't want to be another one in the mix as much as possible. You want to be helping the mix get to where it needs to get.
Really sounds as if you're playing more to those facilitative strengths, right? Of how you can certainly echo back perhaps agreements, like where people are aligned, where there are ideas that are running in support of each other. And then certainly in facilitation, exploring as much as what I hear, almost like a non-biased, curiosity approach of being able to unpack the differences or the points of conflict.
And maybe call a flag, a yellow card here or there when something's gone a little bit awry.
Time out, everybody.
Yeah. All that's healthy. I think that's all very healthy.
Yeah.
And what I've experienced in my own leadership is when I take too active a role, now I'm doing most of the work. And everybody's disengaging, and so it's just my project now, and now this is the only thing I can do from the million things in my purview and my worry list. I now am doing one thing because I've taken too strong of a role in a situation, and so this is where I think the leader has to balance their role on the team. I think too soft, it's facilitative. I don't care. I'm not helping you get someplace. Too strong, I'm the only one alone now doing this all by myself.
Yeah.
And so someplace in between, we have to find a balance.
The balance. It's very dynamic. It's very
for sure.
dynamic. The flip side of that too, it's somewhat what you're relating is the leader's energy and how that impacts others. So if you take on a very strong presence, perhaps either with opinion or suggestion, or, certainly the outcome, maybe you're doing that work on your own, but it also has that energy bleed, right? And how you show up. Have you seen other leaders, like when they are striking that balance, when we want to help the positive energy, the motivating energy, the solution focus, like the energy that's really going to help enable the team to execute? Like, have you noticed any other steps a leader might take to be able to more positively impact the collective?
Well, I think it's important to stay calm. So on the personal front, I have a big family of 7 children. And if I'm agitated, I notice very quickly they all get agitated. And now the whole field is, the hive is hyper because there's a threat, right? That's the leader's job, is to identify the threats and to inform the team. There's a threat here, we have to respond. And so if they're perceived, if I'm agitated, now we're all agitated. And if that's not what's called for now, I've overdone it, right? So I think first and foremost, I think in 95% of situations, the leader should just stay calm. Maybe there's 5% where there is a true threat we have to respond to immediately. But most of the time, it's getting everybody grounded, getting everybody focused, getting everybody back on track is really what's called for.
Yeah. We talked about the role of clarity to help differentiate signal from noise, focusing on what matters most, that box that we talked about. But here I hear you referring, really what I talk about is one other C, which is the role of composure, and how our energy as leaders, as performers, certainly it impacts those around us, our ability to connect with them, our ability to communicate effectively with them. And oftentimes leaders talk about the need to like be able to down regulate that, right? Like you were using your example. If you get really amped up, odds are people are going to be then reacting with that emotional energy too. And that spreads. The role of composure, it's challenging, like when our hearts are out there in something, right? Like we are wired to react and then think. So it is what I very much talk about as a skill of like what helps for you to pull the energy down that enables you to show up as your best self, as you're the best leader that you know you can be, and also meet the demands before you in that moment. As you mentioned, maybe with kids, is be able to, I know for me as a parent, focusing on listening and being curious rather than just laying it on and directing, right? But it is a skill. And I think oftentimes there's memes out there, and this is a gender-based meme, but like when you tell a woman to calm down, right? Like, what are we doing? Like there's memes out there. It's not a good idea. But same, like, honestly, behaviorally, when we just say to ourselves, oh, don't stress, or just relax. That actually is not going to translate to any specific behavior. So if you're in that leadership role and you are trying to downregulate your energy, focusing on the breath is key. And then also, if you're going to say to yourself something, directing towards relaxing or calming down, perhaps to the behavior that is most likely to help your system down regulate. So it could be 3 deep breaths, or, you know what, I'm just going to close my eyes for a minute. Or, hey, it's going to be like, I'm going to pause right there. I just need to get back to you. Right. And truly taking the pause. But if we're just saying the diffuse, like, calm down, relax, it sometimes doesn't lead to the outcomes that we're seeking.
So true, Dr. Amy. Sometimes, and I found, and I wouldn't say I'm an expert at this by any means, but I feel our brains are trained to follow the dot, and you can ask a question at the right moment that takes everybody's brain someplace else. I wonder what would happen if X, Y, and Z occurred. Have we thought about that? Now everybody's following you over here. Or have we thought about if we just reversed engineered this and went the other direction, could we get a different outcome? And now everybody's brainstorming. So sometimes, and I would say this is a work in progress for my own self, is thinking about the right question to ask at the right moment to get the people in the room reoriented and reset. And it doesn't take a lot, but we all follow when something interesting kind of strikes our attention. So I think that's one of the things I found is helpful, is in the right moment, getting the right question on the table so that we're all moving that direction.
I appreciate how that taps more of our cognitive flexibility, right?
Yes.
If you're really in the trenches and you find people kind of locking down into arguing their position, it is often very challenging. It can kind of lock up. People start talking over one another. Actually, they don't even realize they're like saying the same things at the same time. It can be really become entrenched. I like that question. I also appreciate the intent to be able to leverage like a collective perspective shift, or that can like free up perhaps what may be locked in the positioning arguments. Absolutely. This is not without its impacts on you as a human, right? So I talk about holistic high performance, but really we're talking about human performance, whether you're on the pitch right now in the World Cup, whether you're a military operator, or certainly a corporate leader. It is the human that is showing up to execute in that performance domain. Well, while clarity, composure, certainly those tools can help us. I would be remiss if I didn't pause for a moment and ask you, along your journey, what has helped you sustain that? So, could you share back with our audience perhaps aspects of maybe your daily or weekly routine that you have found that have helped you in this journey? Maybe bounce back from punches, maybe have a healthy dose to your motivation tank, recover through it. But certainly to be able to sustain over the decades.
Yeah, a couple thoughts come to mind. I think that's a great question because it is the person is doing the work, not just the leader, but there's a human being full of all of the biological needs that we have. So number one, I'm doing much better later in my career than earlier from just having more time. I used to have a full day of meetings and think that was productive, and I was, at the end of the day, I was tanked from, literally 12 meetings during the whole day. And I was like, oh, that was a busy day, but I didn't do a lot. I was just bouncing from things. So now I have a lot of white space in my days, and that's made a big difference. Because in that white space, I've got a couple things. One, I've got time to recharge. I've got time to move. I've got time to contemplate the blank page and be challenged by what am I not thinking about. I've also found that when challenges are in front of me or blocks, trying to pivot away from what's happening to me to what's happening for me. That's a big psychological shift that I think, again, later in life has really helped me from like, this guy's being difficult to he's trying to teach me something. What do I need to learn here? And that has enabled me to engage the world in a different way, where it's not as much energy drain, but more creative. So those are a couple things I found as helpful.
I appreciate that. That really shifts it from the perception of almost like a threat-based to an opportunity or challenge mindset, right? Like what else could be there that certainly, you could take away, but also like pursue and really help you out. So
yeah.
Absolutely. Sam, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate the conversation and certainly highlighting the role of clarity, of highlighting the role of composure, and then more than anything, being able to recharge, renew, because it can be a grind if we aren't careful. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I can't wait to go get the book.
Thank you.
All right.